Hello, welcome to This Month in Arts Marketing. My name is Megan Wirtz. I am a marketing coach and consultant at Confluence Art Solutions. And with me is Lynette Shy, the CEO and founder of this lovely company. And today we are talking about our passionate feelings about the arts and how amazing artists are and wanting to help everybody connect with their people. We are going to get very people and audience focused, so come along. Let's talk people focused everything. That's what's on my brain right now is putting audiences and potential audiences and donor audiences and anybody who is not an employee at your organization, putting them first in everything you do.
And what do you mean by that? Like, give me some, I know what you mean, but let's give them
Yeah.
some ideas of what you're talking about.
Oh, there's a lot. Okay, first one that comes to mind, which I'm sure people have heard us say a million times now, your language and anything that is outward facing from your organization should be focused on them, their benefit, their experience, and not your back end we, as in we are so excited to announce, join us for. That's one of the very basic and easy to change things, even though it is a hard habit to break and does take some time and effort to make that flip.
It's easy to slide back too. I notice that a lot of times that people get really good at it and then they get busy and then they slide backwards and then it goes back into the we and join us. And we're so excited. Which we're glad you're excited, but they need to be excited. So
And why should they be excited as your audience? Yeah.
yeah.
So that's a small one that I'm sure we've talked about a million times here and there. Another one I'm thinking about is how important audience focused connection and experience is going to be at your live events. If we are talking specifically to performing arts and more live event or I know I talked about this last time too, outdoor events, things where you are away from screens and connecting with people and out of the house are going to be so important to prioritize and push and advertise again with your language ahead of time what people will be getting out of that, connecting with new people, becoming a part of a community of people who like this type of art or who are exploring this type of art. And then when you're there and putting on that event, making sure you're giving more opportunity than if I think of a theater venue, walking in, going to your seat, sitting in the dark, and then as soon as the show is over, getting out of your seat and leaving, providing opportunities for people to connect with those communities that they're building and becoming a part of before, during, and after the show are going to be very valuable coming up.
Not, and I would say not even just live events, but anything that you're doing, are you including some type of human connection with other people? And I think that just in the future, the human element with being with each other is going to be very, very important. I mean, it already is, right? But I think it's going to be that much more important. So are you in a lobby, are you creating interactive things for them to do with each other? Are you creating spaces that they can sit and have a drink and socialize with each other? It doesn't even have to be super complicated. I mean, if it is a performing arts or some type of event, I'd love to have like education stations where there it could even be the content that you're creating and that you're pushing out, because not everybody is going to have seen all of the content. So interviews and stuff that you do that you pushed out as ads can also be running in the lobby, because it gives people something to do and a reason to talk to each other about it. So I am now, I'm not now, I've always been, but now I think even coming up with talking points and printing those in the program, or creating ways that people can think about the arts and how it relates to them and each other is really
I
important.
like I like that idea. Have you ever been to like a coffee shop or a bar or a restaurant where they have like conversation cards?
Yeah, yeah,
And
that's a great idea.
and even if you're with somebody that you went to this coffee bar with, it's always fun to just grab it and be like, "Oh, like how would you answer this question?" I think that could be a really great idea for a lot of organizations and spaces to just literally give people a way to talk to each other.
And super inexpensive to do. I mean,
Mhm.
you could print it on a piece of paper and put it in a like a little table tent if you wanted, or you could create the coasters and just put them out. Those aren't very expensive. Yeah, I
I
think it's a great idea.
I think it's a good note to my brain goes to if you're creating these spaces, my brain starts daydreaming
Do it.
really, really big about those things. But I think it's also important to note that if you aren't at this place or you're not there right now, just providing a social spot, just space wise, even if it's not an event or a task or to do,
Yeah.
even if it's just a spot to have your drink or to have those conversations, like it can be as big or as small, they're all going to be valuable in different ways.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I agree.
So we're hinting at how important human connection is going to be. Would we like to just hint at what we have coming down the pipeline a little bit that's making us feel that way?
Sure. So it's AI. So as we kind of try to keep our finger on the pulse of what's happening with AI. And we utilize AI a lot. And I do think that it's going to shift some of our industry. And so I think that one of the things that the arts can do is kind of lean into the fact that art is about connection, connecting with art, connecting with each other, and all of that. And I think that um, just I don't think you can go wrong if you're creating spaces and places and things for people to build connection with each other and human connection with each other. So um, that's kind of where, like, in a world that is going even more digital and even more kind of machine learning, let's connect on a human to human element level. So
Yeah, which I think what you're saying is we are already an industry for that.
yes.
It shouldn't feel like it has to be the biggest shift in the world. Kind of dig deeper into what your goal and mission and efforts are going towards already.
Yeah. And I think it's now, like, it's always been time, but even more so, it's time to talk about those things. The mission driven marketing is important, right? Like, it's always been important. So I hate to say it, but even more so now, the studies are showing that people are getting higher response rates and they're getting higher conversions and they're getting a lot more traction when it's their mission, what they do, how they're connected to their community and their city and each other is super important. And I keep saying the word super important, but I feel like it is.
Some big ideas in the brain. So one of the things I struggle with conceptualizing is the 80-20 balance that we preach about
Mhm.
on if we're just talking social media or digital or just our outputs. 80% of it is something that is educational, entertaining, and like inspiring to our audiences. Only 20% is like buy tickets to this thing, the salesy focus. Within that balance, how do you communicate your mission without copy and pasting the mission statement that you have on your website?
I mean, I hope that they're living their mission, right? If
Mm.
your mission is to spread theater or like to have a community that is full of vibrant art, then you show the vibrant art, you show the community. It doesn't have to be like, it doesn't have to be our mission statement is to bring vibrant art to our community. It can show that you're bringing vibrant art to your community. So a video of people interacting with the art, a video of the art being created, the opportunity to bring the community into a space and talk to the artist about what they were feeling and the emotions, and then you're capturing that through either photography or a blog or interviewing the artist, like all of that. It should be not that big of a jump
Mhm.
for a lot of arts organizations if they're living their mission.
And you would consider that mission-driven marketing.
I would.
Could you then give an example of what you would consider non-mission driven marketing?
I think it's the, so this is where it starts to get a little bit hard to come.
Yeah, I'm trying to draw like a hard line.
There's not really a
That
hard
doesn't
line,
exist,
it's a wiggly
but
line.
yeah.
I would say it's, again, I'm going to roll it back to your messaging then. So if you're saying join us for an artist talk back on blah, 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 and then you show a picture of the artist talk back instead of artist, John Smith, talk to the community about the creation of art that was inspired by blah blah blah. That to me is a different conversation. It's the same, you're like, it's the same thing,
Mhm.
but it's not, because it's not, it's mission driven now. Does that make any sense? I don't know if it is.
Yeah. No, I'm looking for like where that line is of it's not copy and pasting the mission statement,
Mhm.
and where that line becomes like it's mission focused without doing that,
Yeah.
and when it feels not mission driven.
I mean, I
So
think if your mission is about putting art in the community, then your content should be about your community and the
Mhm.
art. It shouldn't be about you. And I think that's what I'm trying to say. And so, um,
And if it isn't community focused, if it's about bringing professional level of this art form to your community, then it's about the professionalism. Am I
I think
in that realm?
it's still about your community, right? Whether
Okay.
your community is other artists, or your community is an actual city or geographical location, or your community is, book lovers, or whatever the community is that you're trying to create, the group of people that you're trying to curate, the people you want to touch, like their hearts. That's your community, and that's who it's for, and that's what it's about. So if it is a community of book lovers, and you're talking about, copywriting or an author that created this work, it's why do the people, it is why do the people need to see it, or why do the people need to read it?
Yeah.
But it's not the author wants you to do it, because that's not
Yes.
a motivating factor. Us
Yes.
wanting you to come see a show, or us wanting you to buy a ticket or come to an opening, or that means nothing to people. Like that, you might have a couple key players that are
Yeah.
so supportive, they're like your diehards, so they will, just because you ask them to. Most people
It's
won't.
yeah.
So
It's that idea of as a previous dancer, either going to performances or being in performances where the only audience members are like family, friends, loved ones, and roommates.
yeah.
Like it did not extend beyond the circle of the people immediately involved in the project. And that's something I was just thinking about while you were talking is who that community is. Um, a lot of times when we get started with an organization, we'll hear, well, who do you make this art for? Everybody.
Yeah.
It's for everybody. It's like, but
Yeah,
I think we have
yeah, man.
limitations on what everybody is. And at the same time, I think the same person can feel it's made for everybody, and this is who I have in my brain of who we have coming to the audience right now, and that's who we're marketing to, as opposed to thinking about any other potential audiences. If you are used to, or you believe that you make this art because that is who it's for, like you're the target audience, and you only think, well, I like this radio station, so we're going to advertise there, or this is what I see on TikTok, so that is what we're going to advertise, and not thinking about any other potential audiences that might be like really searching and trying to find your work, and you're not reaching them because you're not thinking about them
Mm.
as well, I think is just as important. It's not made for everybody, and you can't have future growth and development by just focusing on one type of audience member.
Or none. I think that happens a lot too, right? There is no, you know, they're just like, we're just gonna push out a message, or it hasn't even been thought that way, that complete hasn't been thought through that completely yet. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go back. So this was several months ago, but you did a presentation on um workshop. I guess this was a workshop. I'm going the whole way back to like the fall, and
November?
about
Yes.
our Smokey the Bear's musical. So what we made up in this workshop, a campaign on for a fake show that I actually kind of want to see in real life, called
Oh
Smokey
yeah.
the musical. That's what we titled it.
If we can share it after this as well, we had AI create a photo of the show. And reminder, this was back in November, so I'm sure AI could do an even better job right now than it could. But like the photo that it created to like advertise the show was stunning. I was like, I really want to see it.
Yeah, it had dancing like rabbits and stuff. It was pretty
Yeah.
funny. But one of the reasons that we do that is we talk through all the different audiences, and are you talking to each of the audiences? So like I'm trying to remember every audience that came up. It was about Smokey the Bear. So one of them was firefighters.
One of them was firefighters.
What's the other
One
one?
of them was environmentalists.
Yes, environment.
Just outdoors lovers, people who hike, people who hunt or fish, people who those kind of things.
Goes right, and then we had the classic, like people who love musicals, people who love live events, and people that loved music, I think was kind of how we did it. And then if you're creating content and if you're creating things, are you creating things that will appeal to each of these audiences, and why it's important for, you know, people in those audiences to see the show. And so I'm kind of circling back to you know, the audience,
Yeah.
and connecting the audience to your information on why it's important, and why would they would enjoy it. Because we're not like, not to go into a whole drama with marketing. I know a lot of people hate marketing, and I kind of understand why. My philosophy is, it's not like we are never trying to manipulate anybody. Like, it is, for me, marketing is putting events, tickets, all things art in front of the people that we think are going to appreciate it. Why would we put it in front of somebody else to trick them into buying? Like, that's not the point at all. It's trying to find the right group of people that want what you are selling.
And
That's it.
trying to find people who might not know that they want what you're selling.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
in that example of Smokey the Bear the musical, firefighters, people might not typically think as a avid theater going, musical theater going group of people. But if we can connect them with this specific show and say, out of all the musicals you could see in your life, we think this is one that you will enjoy. That is why we are connecting and creating that bridge. And if it turns them into theater lovers and art consumers, then all the better for the entire arts community. But
I do think it also,
excluding them because we think that they aren't going to come.
yeah, they're like, why would a firefighter come? Right.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, so, and I think that there is, oh my gosh, it was Austin Ballet. So Austin Ballet did a study, it was several years ago now, with I think it was Wolf Brown. I'm not sure, but we'll link it below. It's still out there, and I still think people should go watch it. And it talked a lot about barriers that people have to come to live performances, to come to different arts events, and how education and some type of connection to something that they understand will help them get over that barrier to try it. And so that's what we're trying to identify, is for certain groups who may have a barrier to going or may not realize they want to go, what connection do they have with the art that you're creating, that might make them choose to do something that's probably a little scary for some people. I think we live and breathe art, right? So we're all about going to all the different things and trying things, but not, just like you said, not everybody is the same. Um, they might be scared to go to the symphony. They might not want to go, to the opera or to the theater if they've never been before, because they have nothing to connect it to. So help them make that connection, help them get over any intimidation factor that there might be surrounding trying something new.
I think we're really honing in on this phrasing of like connecting people to people and art.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's, I think, the idea of, because yeah, my fiance will make fun of me for working in marketing. He'll just make those very kindly, well intentioned, the little jabs about like manipulating and selling people things that they don't need. And I'm like, but we're selling experience and art and live events and connection and something to escape to on your Friday night, or something to get your brain thinking creatively about a different perspective or a whole new world or anything like that. And I had the chance to go to one of our clients' events, and somebody that we work with walked up to me after and was like, people were dancing in their seats, and no matter how stressful this job gets sometimes, I just got to watch somebody's Friday night get better.
Yeah. Yeah.
No matter how the rest of their day went, no matter what the rest of the weekend holds for them, like, if they had a good time, if 2 people in the audience had a good time, then I am happy with the job that I did.
Right.
And I think that's what we can all try to hold on to. We got into the arts because we were passionate about them
Mhm.
to some capacity, in some experience, and no matter how hard this job is, because it is very hard, those are the things that we could try to hold on to and use those as our driving force
Yeah.
with our messaging and decision making of what we're going to do, what we're going to put our energy into or not. Um, mm,
I can't remember what if it might have been sports because my husband's a soccer coach, so I help market the soccer team that he coaches. But I can't remember if it was sports or if it was a specific show. I think it was a soccer game. And someone said to me, someone here, one of the fans, this is their very first game. This is their first experience with you guys, and we want every time that someone comes to be a good experience. If someone was experiencing it the first time, we want them to now love the game. We want them to love the show. We want them to love the art. Sorry, my phone's ringing. We want them um, to want to come back again. So every time is somebody's first time, and I think that's important to always keep in mind.
And I think there's a lot of truth to that. Even outside of it being kind of catchphrasy,
Mhm.
is if we're thinking sports, every game is different. Even if you're coming back, they might be playing a different opponent. Different things are going to happen. If
Same
you're
with
going
show, same with
if
performing
you're going to
arts.
a show or
Yeah.
anything, like, you might be going to the same organization, but very few people will go see the same performance,
Mhm.
multiple times in a weekend or a run. They're gonna come back for one of each
Mhm.
performance. So it is different every time.
Well, even if you come see the same performance, it's different. So
Yeah,
like you know, I it's never the same moment that you had that's the fleeting thing with performing arts. And that's I think also the beautiful thing about performing arts specifically, it ceases to exist after that moment is over. So you have like it's not captured the same on video as it is when you're in the theater with hundreds or even tens or five other people. You are having a shared life experience with people, right?
this
Yeah.
is the sign language to you to tell you for you to tell the
The heartbeat syncing.
yes.
Yeah, yeah. Like when you're in the room, and there's studies that show that your hearts will sync with the other people watching the performance with you. That's incredible. And I think that's what art does. Sorry, we're gonna get all like soapboxy and stuff because obviously we're really passionate about it. But I think that we need to remember that we're the curators of that. We are helping build that community, and I think in the world
And,
right now, it's just super important.
mhm,
Yeah.
and I think it's gonna continue to be more important.
Yes. Agreed.
Provide these spaces to provide that escape, and distraction is a strong word, but that it fits, I think. Um, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the balance that is constantly at battle at a nonprofit arts organization. Art versus business mindedness
Mhm.
needs to be hand in hand. They need to work together. Um, let us use our passionately driven artistic brains to create these spaces to make incredible art and let us also put that energy into smart business-minded decisions and planning because one cannot exist without the other.
Agreed. And why create this? I mean, not why. I know sometimes like you're compelled, you need to create your art. So that is a whole other conversation. But if you are compelled and you are creating this art, if you don't put the business side together, then not enough people are going to see it. They're not going to be, you know, touched by it or changed by it, or, you know, even if they don't like it, like they're not going to have that interaction. And I think I'm way going off subject now. But I think that I think it was 2 years ago, I was part of a panel and we talked about the business of art and the business of nonprofit. And there is a TED Talk. It's really, really good. Of course, I'm spacing on his name right now, but I will find it and link it in the details below. And it is about how we treat nonprofit businesses. And I'm going to say specifically art, because a lot of times artists are the ones that end up leading the business and leading the organization. And they've never had the training on how to do that. So there's a lot of like fly by the seat of your pants. And artists tend to be creative thinkers and creative problem solvers. So they make it work. But, you know, are there ways that we can make it a little bit more efficient? And yes, there are. And one of the things that they talk about in this presentation, this TED Talk, that I am like on the soapbox right next to him, is that nonprofit is looked like they have to break even every year. They have to have flat. They cannot make money. And that is not a way to think about how to build a sustainable business. If you were building a business and you were trying to just break even every year, then you're not going to have the money that you need to invest in your future. You're not going to be doing that. You're not going to grow. So it is shifting a whole mindset of how in the United States we see nonprofits. That is a tax status. That does not mean you don't get to make money. And when I'm not saying like, you know, you're hoarding resources or anything like that, that's not it at all. But are you investing in your future? Are you thinking about building revenue year over year, not just for this year, we're breaking even, for next year, we're breaking even, we're breaking, like, what if something takes several years? Are you thinking about that, investing the money that you need so you can grow? And a lot of times that is not the case. Sometimes unintentionally because you don't know, and sometimes because your board says you have to zero out at the end of the year. So
Yeah.
anyway.
And I think part of it is too, it's not, I think it's a little bit of both not thinking forward enough to go beyond breaking even, but also not having the ability to think forward enough to go beyond breaking even because it's hard and you're constantly putting out the small immediate fires versus having the breath to think beyond like this show or this season or just the task that's in front of you today.
Yeah. And as we always say, you can't afford to not stop and look at what's happening. You can't afford to do that, not from a mental health standpoint, or you're utilizing your resources financially and, you know, staff and volunteer wise. You can't afford to not stop and see what's going on. Which it goes against the very nature of when you're underwater. You know, because you have such a heavy workload and you're running so fast on your treadmill, you're not necessarily getting anywhere. You're exerting a lot of energy, but is it doing what you need to do? And we talk about it every single time, so I won't go into that, but
Yep, it's because we keep seeing it and more people need to hear it. That's why.
yeah, I would say one of the tracks that I am gonna bring up, because we talked about it last month, and about budgeting and how we were seeing like you had to invest a little bit more money in some of your advertising right now. And then my favorite, Colleen Dylan Schneider from Impacts, put out a study, and yes, we what we were seeing seems to be correct. The data supports that you have to increase your budgets. So we used to recommend 12%. The new recommendation is 17. So it went up kind of quite a bit.
And can you break down what that 17% is
Yeah,
of.
sorry, of your revenue, right? So your earned revenue should be 17%, and that doesn't include personnel. That is your like campaigns and your marketing spend. And then 80% of that 17% should be on advertising and media buys specifically. So yeah,
Mhm.
everything's costing more.
Everything is costing more.
Yeah.
But as we work with organizations and help them restructure their budgets, we find that there tends to be some very easy switches that can be made to more effectively spend the budget that you have. When we say increase budgets, we don't even necessarily mean overall your organization has to spend more money. It's about taking your budget and allocating more of it towards
Yeah.
marketing focused things. Obviously we're biased, but we think it has the greatest impact.
And I think that's hard for a lot of organizations because when you're looking, marketing is all expense. It is not bringing, I mean, it is, we know it's bringing in revenue, but it's not a direct,
Not everything is direct,
yeah,
unless you can literally see that this ad
yeah,
led to this button click, which led to this purchase of tickets.
yeah,
Everything else that we're putting out that we consider marketing, because it's more than advertising, doesn't always show direct sales
yeah.
or donations or any sort of other income. So
Especially if you're using more traditional advertising, methods instead of digital, because at least digital has some feedback, on what conversions and how much money you're making off of those. But if you're using traditional, um, sometimes that has a tendency to get cut without getting reinvested in the organization. If they have to cut a budget, they'll cut the marketing budget first, which is, I think, one of the very last things you should cut. Um,
and that was proven during COVID.
it was.
Organizations who either limited or cut completely marketing budgets, marketing departments, any sort of communications during COVID because that was their way of saving money, showed how much more difficult it was to get back up and running
Yeah.
post-pandemic.
Yeah, they didn't recover the same way. Yeah. Yeah.
So we're biased, but the data tends to prove it.
That's how we like to work. That's how we like to work. What else is going on? What are you excited about besides the sunshine and your wedding next month?
I do have a wedding next month. Oh yeah, so whenever we decide to film this next month, it might be before, it might be after the wedding. Who knows? So.
It'll probably, I don't know. If Megan's not here next month, and it's me talking to myself, she'll be in full
getting married.
wedding mode.
I am excited because I also teach dance at the studio that I grew up dancing at. And so it is competition and recital season right now. And I love it because throughout the year, teaching becomes, I don't want to say the word mundane because those kids cannot let it get mundane, but it becomes like a regularly scheduled thing that you can predict you're going into the studio to teach. But now when I go to a competition and I get to see the creative work that other choreographers are creating and I hear music and I get to be around like what is near and dear to my heart is like the moms and kids running around with hairspray filled air screaming at each other.
Yes.
It's crazy, but I'm like, that was where I fell in love with art and fell in love with performance. So being surrounded by that again, I think is a really nice time of the year, as hectic as it gets and as long as those days can be. Um, and so with that, I will turn that into my little soapbox of like, remember why you got into the arts and remember what your love in the arts is and go see it or go be a part of it. I've been running into people lately who I grew up dancing with, and we've all talked about like a lot of us can't consider ourselves dancers anymore, but we just want to go into a studio and move.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, maybe I'm gonna start like an adult dance class this summer or something because our studio doesn't have that right now. So
Do it. Do
yeah,
it. Go just move again. Yeah.
everybody create your space for your art, find it. If you can't find it, make it yourself. Just reconnect with
Creation.
those juices. Yeah. And I think that's part of the spring feeling I'm feeling right now is in the wintertime. I'm in Buffalo, New York, so we are just hunkered down from the snow all winter long, but now I'm starting to feel like I can leave the house again. And I'm like, let's start feeling creative juices. So I think that's what I'm excited for right now.
Nice.
How about you? Do you have anything exciting?
Yeah. This weekend I'm doing a presentation for the emerging artists for the Columbus Arts Festival, and I love that. It's about telling your story, and I just like hearing all of their stories and like what got the same. It's almost really similar, right? But hearing what got them into art and seeing some of their processes and the stuff that people can create is incredible. Like it blows my mind, people's like brains and their creation and what it means to them. And like I hate the word innovate because I think innovate is overused, but man, some of these people can just create the most amazing works of art from nothing. It's like it doesn't exist and then it does. And that I just think is awesome. So I'm super excited to work with them this weekend. And I am also excited that it's nice outside. So the
And it
trees
just
are starting to bloom. I'm
makes you want
sorry.
to connect with makes you want to get them connected with their people.
Yes,
When
yes.
when you get that chance to fall in love with somebody's art, and you're like, well, I can't buy all of your art, I can't experience all of your art 24/7, like I can't be your only audience member. You're like, we want to help you connect. We want to help you find your people.
That's the bad part about the arts festival is I'm like, I want to buy everything that I see from everyone. And I work in the arts, so I don't make enough money to buy everything that I see from everyone. So, but yeah.
Yeah. I this is our first summer in the house. We got this house in October of last year, so we've only been here during colder months. And so I am excited and afraid of if I end up at a lot of street fairs, arts festivals, craft shows, I'm gonna come home with a lot of stuff this year.
A lot of stuff. That sounds awesome.
So that'll be fun.
Well, thanks for joining us, and we will see you next month if Megan is not off getting married.
And if anything, I'll see you soon.
Bye.
Thanks.